Impromptu introduction beginning now. This is the High Council speaking.
It sounds like you're pretty tired over there.
No, I'm not tired. I'm just drunk.
Yeah. Well, I think we gotta be a little bit more like what's the word? Pretentious in the introduction.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is NPR speaking.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. So yeah, I'm now. I'm Shawn. I'm now.
Yeah, my name's Jordan.
Yeah, and this
And,
is Soother.
This is our friend Amit.
Yeah. I joined the ranks of the working since our last podcast, and I have to say, what was that?
The fucking computer. Ignore. If you're listening to this with headphones, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, those computers, like Windows, just having like an update every 3 seconds.
Fucking updates. Like, it doesn't matter how often you update. No, the next day it's another one.
You know, I think that those updates are probably more useful than
To them.
we even imagined.
No, I feel like they're more useful to Microsoft than they are to us.
Trent, do you have an explanation as to why
How can
Windows
I better-
updates as much as it does?
How can I better gather information from you for free?
So, for Windows in particular, I mean, I don't like specialize in that operating system, but because it's so commonly used, it's a target for a lot of like cyber attacks. So it's more common for people to find exploitative code within Windows.
So it's a lot of security updates in Windows.
Pretty much.
Why do I pay to have a Windows activation key just to see ads on my operating system?
What's really woke, actually, is the free operating systems provided by Linux.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't disagree with that.
The only like real drawback is it's just not widely used.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why you got to just know everything so that you can like make it compatible. Everything's open architecture if you're brave enough.
Pretty much.
Yeah, rest in peace to Alan Dulles, by the way.
Yeah.
That was an American hero.
Free Bobby Shmurda. Oh, wait.
Free Earl. Yeah, Earl Sweatshirt.
My name is Earl.
My Name is Earl. Have you ever seen My Name is Earl, actually?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That is a very, like, simultaneously underrated.
Pretty woke TV.
Yeah, it's simultaneously underrated and an overrated show.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people watch it, but I feel like that show is actually a little bit deeper than people think. Like, just a little bit.
I mean, I would
It's
have
deeper than rap.
I would have to watch it again to make a judgment, just because last time I saw it, I was a kid, and I was just watching it because it was on TV.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't like sitting down with the intent of watching it.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I saw it when I was a kid, too. And I was like, oh, yeah, this thing's funny. I'm a 13-year-old guy, and I find My Name is Earl funny.
Yeah, I'm sure if I went back and watched it again, I'd find something interesting in the subtext. But I would, like I said, I'd have to go back and watch it.
I've been watching a lot of YouTube highlights of King of the Hill. Honestly, I feel like that's one of those shows and I need to rewatch.
Dang it, Bobby.
Yeah.
Damn it, Dale.
Just because, like, same thing with you, like what you just said about My Name is Earl. Like, I saw it on Adult Swim as a kid. I was like, whatever, this is a show. But as an adult, it's like, okay, a lot of the stuff is actually either really funny or really resonates. Like
when Hank takes the small WD-40 to open the bigger WD-40.
oh my god. Or the episode where he gets high, or the episode where Dale cuts Hank's brake lines. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
there's just
Dale, you cut the brake, Dale. And he's
like, no, I don't think I did.
Oh yeah, or the one where they go camping and they like kill the endangered bird. Or
Oh,
they
my
think they killed the
goodness.
endangered
Oh
bird.
my god.
Nah,
Dude.
and they try to hide it.
Yeah.
There's so many good shows that I just wrote off because I was just too young to even give a fuck about them.
That could be a good, like, major first topic is, like, your guys' like, what do you think is your favorite TV show, and also, what is objectively the best TV show?
That's a tough one.
Like, both, there's two answers. Like, what's your personal favorite, and what's objectively the best? And that could be both.
I'll go first. My personal favorite, is BoJack Horseman.
It's a pretty solid choice.
It's based.
I fucking love that show. And it's another one, third time that this example has been used, but watched it as a kid, didn't understand it, didn't like it. Now that I'm an adult, now that I've seen it all the way through, and I understand what the story is, like, it makes sense.
The view.
There's not really anything, like, you can dive deep into that show if you want to. You can watch it just because of the cool animation, like whatever. But it's actually a line from the show that perfectly speaks to how I interpret the show, which is art isn't about what you put into it; it's about what other people get out of it. And the bottom line is, it could be stick figures talking to each other and interacting the way that they did in that show, and it would still be meaningful to some people. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's the reason that is my personal favorite. The best show I've ever seen, just production-wise, I'd have to say like Mad Men or Breaking Bad. Honestly, any of the AMC shows, like they really, really produce the fuck out of those shows.
Right.
Funny talking horse show. It's really funny. You just watch it. It's one of those shows you can really turn your mind off. BoJack Horseman. Just turn your mind off. Just watch it.
Some people can though. Some people don't get the really the underlying subliminal messages of the show.
Yeah, or the outspoken.
And it's understandable. Like, I don't know. I mean, some people just see that it's a cartoon and just immediately dismiss it.
Yeah, that's how I was with cartoons when I was a kid. Like, I saw King of the Hill and didn't think twice about it. I was like, oh, it's a dumbass cartoon.
Yeah, people in America are like absolutely allergic to seeing anything in a deeper way, just like having mild entertainment.
Pretty much.
And so, Trent, what is your personal favorite and what you think is the objective best TV show?
Oh man, so my personal favorite, I would probably have to say The Sopranos.
Okay.
I mean, I know that might be kind of a cliche.
Big shocker.
That might be kind of a cliche answer,
Hey,
but
go.
I really just feel like it's one of those shows that you could watch it however many times you wanted and always find something new.
I'm trying to pull up the compilation of every time someone's got whacked on that show.
We should watch that when we're done. You think it's crazy.
I mean, that's the thing about it, though, is like on the surface, it's like, oh, it's so gruesome. It's a TV show about the mafia.
Yeah.
But when you kind of read into it, you realize, like, this isn't just a commentary on violence and the mob. It's about American life.
Yeah.
It's about how this tide of change happened in the late 20th and early 21st centuries that not even the mafia could stop.
Yeah.
It came for them, too.
Yeah, the change of just like eyes and ears being everywhere.
Tony Soprano was a mobster that went to therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not a good metaphor, I don't really know.
It's progressive.
But, you know, you also, there's
I
more
don't
to
know
it.
what
It's
better
like
metaphor you can make.
how we went from being in the 40s and 50s, a mostly working culture with a lot of immigrants, to by the 90s, by the early 2000s, it's like, oh, well, there's just these people who are kind of angry and overweight, and they don't know why they're upset about anything, but they just are.
And Tony Soprano in the first episode, right? One of the first lines he says to Dr. Melfi in his first therapy session is, it's good to be in something from the ground up. I feel like I came in at the end.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
The whole show is outlined by that one word.
That's like
line.
the American dream summed up for anybody born in our generation.
Yeah, or even before. And
even before.
What would you say is objectively the best show, regardless of bias?
That's honestly a way tougher question for me because I've seen so much good TV, but I feel like one of the best shows I've ever seen was Hell on Wheels.
Yeah.
And that's just because
Was that the show where they customized cars?
No, that's the one where they're building the Transcontinental Railroad in the 1870s.
Why did I think it's Gas Monkey? Why did I think of
Hell on Wheels?
You said Hell
Cars
on
Wheels.
Yes, and I thought of Gas Monkey.
I know what you're talking. I've seen that show too.
I know
That's a pretty good guess.
It's pretty good, but I don't think it's the same.
Yeah, not even a little bit.
Damn it, Neil. But
Not even a little
that Hell on Wheels, I saw that too.
Yeah. I just think it's a great show because it's also one of those shows that really depicts the unstoppable tide of change.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just change at a societal level, but even at an individual level.
Gas Monkey.
Not to, I don't want to throw any spoilers out there, but, basically the main character is a guy who used to own slaves. And midway through the show, he's like mourning the body of his dead best friend who was a former slave.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
It's a pretty powerful change to see somebody who went from being a Confederate soldier who owned slaves to weeping over the body
Of a slave.
of a
A
yeah,
former
of
slave,
someone who
yeah.
used to be a slave,
That's a fantastic.
who basically
show.
died a slave because of the way they treated black people at that time.
I think that the term liminal is a good thing to describe some of these shows because liminal meaning like a state of change.
Yeah.
So like a liminal space could be like a hotel where like many different people frequent, but it's always the same rooms.
So
And Hell on Wheels is a liminal show because it depicts change. Mad Men is set in the 1860s. Mad Men is set in the 1960s. Liminal show.
Mad Men is another one of those shows that would be in the running.
Sopranos liminal show.
Yeah.
God, did you guys? I might need to find this before we actually make it like a topic or a talking
Well,
point.
you should look for that, and then I'll say my shows.
Yeah, honestly, just do that. 'Cause I need to find this.
My personal favorite show of all time is probably *Halt and Catch Fire*. It's another AMC show. It's probably one of their most underrated, maybe even the most underrated AMC show. And it's another liminal show. It's my personal favorite show of all time. Another liminal show set between 1983 and 1994 about the computer industry.
Mm-hmm.
And the interrelations of people in the computer industry and how like their work changes them as people. And that show is a modern history lesson that will like I think people should watch that show. I that's just part of the reason I like it. It's just in the first episode, one of the main characters looks at one of the other main characters and they first meet. And he says something I've always carried with me, like my view of computers, is he says computers aren't the thing, they're the thing that gets us to the thing. And
Right.
I just think it's an overwhelmingly simple way to put it, but there's power in that simplicity because it's like people always think we're at the end of history all the time. People in the 1890s thought we were at the end of history, nothing would ever progress more. But the reality is that everything is constantly changing, and it's not only changing, it's changing faster. So like we live in an age where like computers have become ubiquitous. And we just think it's like going to be the end all be all. Like we're just going to all like keep going to work, and like these computers, we're going to keep having neater devices to buy. It's going to be more than that. A lot more change is coming. Like why wouldn't it? It would be pretty ridiculous if everything stayed the same.
Especially like when you think about automation and the way that a lot of technology is being built for industrial applications and how it's going to straight up replace millions of workers.
Yeah.
In probably this decade.
And the U.S. economy is already feeling the effects big time of this stuff. There's like 70 million unemployed, and there's just simply not enough jobs to go around. And what are we going to do? We keep putting that question in the back of our mind. There's 70 million people and only a few 100,000 jobs.
And there's this whole like push from the media and corporations to act like people just don't want to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, I apply to at least 2 jobs every week. You know how many I hear back from? I've heard back from 0 in the last 3 weeks.
It's a simple equation. Why should we just assume everything will just work out when that's not how the world works? It's that the people who love to tell you how the world works actually know the least about how the world works. They just know how they want the world to work. And they try to impose that, and it just doesn't succeed. It just does not succeed, because no matter what you do, eventually there will be too little jobs for the amount of people who need one, and then you have to change the system. Or you're officially admitting that human beings aren't about human civilization.
Right.
Like,
you know what I think is kind of an interesting concept? Is universal basic income for moms. For stay-at-home moms who do the work of raising children and keeping up their households. I mean, not even just moms, but like full-time parents.
for all our British people, mum.
Like, why do we
Mom.
just assume that we should be... that we should allow these households to basically vegetate with no real income as they're raising children, as they raise the next generation?
We should just give universal basic income to everyone, including
Everybody.
the babies.
Everyone, including the baby.
Every single
That's the
fucking
truly
adult.
woke
And the
position.
family dog. But yeah, to finalize that topic, though, I would say objectively the best show ever made. Let's
Yeah,
make a joke,
just to
but
get
I
back
can't
to the
even-
point.
Yeah, literally. This podcast is all about tangential conversations. It's definitely one of the most interesting parts about it. But my objective, the objectively the best show ever made, I would say
Objective
is
or
Breaking
subjective?
Bad. Breaking Bad is
I feel like
Objective or subjective?
Objective.
Oh, okay.
Objectively, the best show is probably Breaking Bad.
Excuse me.
Could be
I mean,
better.
it's all subjective, but if you
Yeah.
want to put your objective
Yeah.
spin on it,
I guess I define objective by what most people agree on.
yeah.
But then
I mean-
again, most people agree Friends is the best show ever made, so...
Realistically, it's like not even. I mean, you could hate that show. Like,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, it's
Still objectively...
just because it's objectively good doesn't mean that everyone co-signs on the fact that it's the best show ever.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of popular shows that I think are complete dog shit.
Yeah, like Friends.
So, like, honestly,
much.
And The Office.
it's kind of funny. It's just like objective. God damn, I have the hiccups. Objective opinion is subjective opinion. Just
Collectivized.
yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only way to look at it. There is no such thing as objectivity. Science, the closest thing we have is objectivity.
You can dump an infinite amount of money and time and resources into something and still have people just hate it.
Yeah.
Like fucking The Big Day by Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
Big budget studio fucking AAA level album, and this motherfucker just goes like I don't even know, like bronze. Like doesn't sell anything, doesn't make any money. Like I'm almost positive that he netted negative money off of that album.
Jesus is King.
Like, come on, bro.
Jesus is King.
See, that at least had like some kind of marketing gimmick.
Yeah.
Like he was marketing that to Christians.
It wasn't very Christ-like kind of way.
Like, at least to a certain degree, people that actually listen to gospel might find a song or two off of that album that they actually like, and that to me, that's marketing. Like,
I see.
that's all that needs to be done. As long as one or two of your songs off of your album go, it doesn't matter how much money or time you put into it.
Yeah. So, did you want to talk about Alan Dulles, Trent, or was that just more of a passing?
I just kind of brought that up in passing, but we can talk about Alan Dulles if you want.
Because I gotta be honest with you, I know a very general amount, but nothing too deep. And yeah, Shawn, I have to say I agree though with that music thing. I didn't mean to like just not respond to that, but yeah, I do agree with that. I like that Chance album netting zero money.
I guarantee he netted negative money. He didn't net zero money. I guarantee he netted
Negative
negative money. He probably lost his record label money from that.
That's fucking awful. I love my wife.
I mean, I don't know. We can get into some serious shit if you guys want to. If we're still on the topic of just personal preferences, what would you guys say is your favorite album ever? Any genre, any artist, anything?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Do you want to go first, Trent, or?
No, you go ahead. I want to kind of mellow some of the ideas I've got.
I see. Thinking man over here. Yeah, my favorite album of all time is probably Faces by Mac Miller. Maybe Faces by Mac Miller. It's really hard for me to choose that. I would say Faces, even though it's a mixtape. It's my favorite album.
Yeah. For me, it's a heavy tie between Faces by Mac Miller or Doris by Earl Sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Both of those albums, I mean, like I said, it's all subjective. You can construe what you want from that. But to me, it resonates pretty heavily, and a lot of the music just hits.
Yeah.
It sounds nice in headphones. It sounds nice in the car. It sounds nice anywhere, like, regardless.
2014 Forest Hills Drive might be
Oh, that's a great album.
a close
Yeah,
second to
To
me.
Pimp a Butterfly is up there. Good Kid, Mad City.
And objectively the best album ever made, Jesus is King.
Completely polar opposite end of the spectrum, but I think Lil Uzi Vert versus the World 2, amazing album. I think Love is Rage 2 is an amazing album.
There's some just groovy songs on there.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is, like, I actually had a conversation with Jonathan about this the other day, but, like, really, like, what some, like, people misconstrue about art or music in general, it doesn't even, not even really art, but with rap or music, like, not everything has to be conscious or be something that you have to deep dive into and wonder, what is the actual meaning of this? Like, some things can just sound good, and that you don't have to dive deeper into it and question why it sounds good. Like, there is no deeper meaning to Lil Uzi Vert's lyrics. The bottom line is, it just sounds good.
Yeah, part of it could just be like the meaning of the art is communicated from merely the feeling you get from it. There's no need to think. There's just merely a feeling you get from it, and that's all there is.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, and I guess if I had to pick, like, one album, I have a pretty broad musical interest. I like a lot of different artists and different styles, but if I had to pick, like, one album that just really resonates with me, it would be the Slim Shady LP by Eminem. That early Eminem.
The purple cover.
That angry, drug-addled, pissed-off blonde
cover.
who just screamed at the world.
Screamed at the world and just told everyone about how fucked up it was.
Yeah, Bad Meets Evil.
To grow up in Detroit.
Tired of having to borrow $1 gas to start my Monte Carlo.
Exactly. That kind of shit that really just cuts to the heart and is what made Eminem popular. Talking about the shitty job that you don't want to work, so instead you just go fucking rap.
Yeah. I'm tired of the same damn Nike Air hat.
I guess another really good album I like was Damn by Kendrick Lamar. Is YouTube going to censor me for saying Damn?
Yeah,
even though it's the name
they'll
of the
censor you
album?
for saying Kendrick Lamar.
Fucking
cunt,
bitch, pussy, motherfucking ass. There we go. We're already censored.
Yeah, we're censored the moment that we even mentioned Israel and Palestine.
That's the end of it.
That's the end of it right there.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I made that joke about you guys talking about the presidential election in Iran, but like honestly, we're already censored, so it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And what exactly was the result of that?
I was gonna say it's honestly the perfect segue to that topic.
Yeah. I only heard about it because of a video I watched from Kyle Kalinske, but he's a source who I trust pretty well.
The all-knowing Kyle Kalinske.
Pretty much. I mean, at least
how would I fail women's studies? I love bitches.
Yeah, but anyway, just going off
of satire. I was quoting Kyle Kalinske's old tweets.
Yeah.
I don't actually think that I love women. I respect women.
He does.
Trans rights matter. Trans rights are human rights.
Just going off what Kyle said and some of the sources that he provided, it seems like Iran now has a hardline president who doesn't want to do business with the West, who doesn't want a nuclear deal, who is just going to be defiant till the very end. And I just don't even know what to think, because Biden, when he was elected, said he wanted to get back in the nuclear deal, and ever since then, Iran has just stonewalled him. And now they've got a hardline president who definitely is not going to sign off on any nuclear deal.
Good. President of Iran.
So, from my perspective, it just seems like the only possible outcome here is either the escalation of tensions or the non-de-escalation. The very best that can happen is we don't escalate, but we remain at the same level of tension that we're at.
I think Joe Biden is just too senile to even know, to a certain extent. I just don't think he fully understands. I feel like he's not all the way together to the point that he probably doesn't even realize the repercussions of trying to escalate situations with Iran.
Man, I have nothing wrong with old people, but we got to stop electing these 76-year-old fucks who just are obviously
who are obviously showing early signs of dementia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would say for Biden, it's probably it's probably progressed more than we think.
No,
he forgets he's even president.
It's honestly,
when's the last
Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the bottom line is, if you are not all the way together in your head, you should not be leading the fucking free world.
I just want to say, when's the last time you saw Biden on TV without a teleprompter and he didn't fuck up a sentence?
You can't. You can't name that once since he's been elected.
I mean, dude, just the other day, he did this totally just bonkers.
Do you see him falling down the stairs?
Yeah, he fell. Well, I'm not even talking about him falling down the stairs. I'm talking about there was a 13-year-old girl, and he was commenting on look at her. She looks like she's 19, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is that about? What's going on there?
What does that have to do with anything, Mr. President?
Yeah.
God damn.
This is the guy who's in charge? What the fuck?
He needs to resign and let Harris
I mean,
become the 47th
I mean,
president.
God,
no,
man,
he
like-
doesn't, dude. No, he fucking
I mean,
doesn't.
I don't trust Trump.
We've talked about this before. I
Like-
hate Kamala Harris, but the bottom
Yeah.
line is we hate Kamala Harris for the correct reasons.
Pretty much.
It's not because she's a fucking black woman in office. Like, no, it's not. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate everybody in office. And I hate mostly white people in office because it's mostly fucking white people
Like,
in office.
God forbid that somebody does something right. Yeah, Davion, because I totally feel that way.
Wait, what do you say?
He said that's cap, that we hate Kamala Harris for the right reasons.
Yeah, I hate Kamala Harris because she's one of the most corrupt people in the government.
Yeah.
I hate
And that's
Kamala
the end
Harris
of it.
because she claimed to be a progressive prosecutor.
Yeah, no,
Which-
she's
I'm sorry, but like, how are you a progressive prosecutor? How can you prosecute somebody with the death
Yeah.
sentence and consider yourself progressive?
What's the progressive way to lock people up? For
What's the
having a
progressive
quarter
way
of
to
weed on
sentence somebody to death?
there is none.
There is none. The bottom line is you're not progressive and you're a lying fucking bitch.
Mom Allah.
them? Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, I guess my big frustration with the Biden-Harris administration, at least at this point, is all of the stuff,
Right, he's retarded.
everything they could do with the stroke of a pen that they just decide not to.
Yeah, no, I mean, they could fix everything in one day. Abolish the DEA, abolish ICE,
End the drug war.
end the drug war, and raise minimum wage to $20 an hour. Call it a day.
And stop the immigrant from coming over.
Yeah, dude, because that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, what's wrong with the wall? Come on.
You guys recording right?
You know,
Yeah.
we need to put like the ice wall from Game of Thrones
Pass
on the
that shit?
south border.
Hell, that's my last one.
I'm trying to put the wall from Game of Thrones on the southern border, put a Night's Watch there.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the border patrol is like, is Night's Watch.
I really
If
think
I worked
that
in the Border Patrol, I would just let people through.
They certainly all virgins.
if
there.
we really just want to, like, I think if your biggest
not
concern is
okay.
immigration,
I would just let people through. Oh, you're a criminal? I don't care. Come on in.
I think the way to resolve, I guess what you would call the border crisis, is to just end the drug war.
yeah,
End what's causing people to lose their homes and fear gang violence and flee these countries and flee the narco state. Just end it.
bro, I saw that show. It was pretty good. Narcos, bro. That shit.
That actually was a pretty good show. I saw that one a
Do
few
you want to
years
fix?
ago.
Do you want to fix the drug epidemic in the United States?
You ever want
You put just a tiny, I mean, like 0.01% of
fentanyl?
tax dollars.
I honestly thought you were going to say fentanyl.
I was going to say fentanyl in the water or something.
No, my dad.
I don't know why I thought you were about to say that.
Dude, Jesus Christ.
That was what happened when Biden became president. Try putting fentanyl in the water.
They're putting fentanyl in the water that's turning the freaking frogs gay. No. You put a fucking I mean, obviously you end the war on drugs. You stop throwing people in jail for drugs, and realistically, you take a very small fraction of whatever budget the entire fucking federal government has, which is trillions of dollars, and you allocate that to opening free drug clinics and free rehab centers for anybody facing addiction, and then there you go. Instead of treating drug addiction like a punishment, it can be treated like an actual psychological problem. Bam. Problem solved.
I mean, I would go a step further and just say legalize, tax, and regulate all drugs. You know, rather than letting people's drug use, which is it's gonna be there whether it's legal or illegal. So, rather than letting it be a source of revenue for these cartels that are gonna use it to commit heinous crimes, and they're gonna use it to run prostitution rings or buy weapons or whatever it is they're into. Make it a source of revenue for the state and a way for a business opportunity.
So you're basically saying legalize all drugs.
Yes, that's what I said.
As long as
Legalize,
you're
tax, and
regulated.
regulate all of it.
And I think that would probably work. I think if we took a more libertarian approach to many things, it would be the preferable alternative to
I mean,
telling people what they
realistically,
can and
you
can't
can
do.
you can legalize all drugs, but the bottom line is nobody's going to open a cocaine dispensary.
I mean, as long as it was regulated.
In my mind, the bottom line is like we can successfully regulate drugs like alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah.
There's like a drug is only as
But you
dangerous
can't
as you make it.
recreationally. I'm sorry, but you can't. There's no like medicinal value or recreational value to cocaine. Like it's an addictive.
There
drug.
is though. It is.
Well,
there is
be.
medicinal value for it, and I think you could
For
make it
cocaine?
recreational.
Yeah.
For cocaine?
Well, there's
I'm pretty sure
there's
is,
various
yeah.
uses
No,
of it.
it's a painkiller.
There's well, it's not even just that. There are actually ways to. I mean, like for example, meth. Right? Meth is present in almost plenty of
Yeah, I mean, they
over-the-counter
use meth.
medicine.
Oh
use.
man,
They
yeah.
literally
So-
use meth to treat ADHD.
There's actually
Yeah, it's a treat.
there's ways to apply drugs that seem bad
Just had this conversation.
that actually can be really
no.
Yeah.
good.
And Joel actually he brings this point up every time. You know that fentanyl, heroin, opioids in general
As good for you as broccoli.
they are essentially just morphine but stronger.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if you quote unquote microdosed heroin, it would essentially be like giving someone morphine in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be microdosing.
Realistically, like it's not the implication that the drugs are just inherently bad by themselves. It's the when you give people room to abuse them, that's when they become a problem, and that's when a drug epidemic starts.
Basically,
The bottom line is that people need help, and that addiction is not something that you can fix by yourself. And
yeah.
if the government can dedicate just a teensy tiny, eensy weensy little bit of that fat ass military budget to actually fixing drug afflicted communities, then there we go. The problem will be solved in a couple of years.
I just think the only thing we need to do is keep a Republican as president.
Yeah,
Then
totally.
everything will be fine.
We should just re-elect Donald Trump. That would fix everything, right?
Yeah, he'll be like the second Grover Cleveland, who's already the best president before Trump.
Grover Cleveland. You know, for those that don't know, Grover Cleveland raised his wife from birth.
Yeah. Grover Stephen Cleveland.
The
Or
president of the
Stephen
United
Grover
States raised his daughter and married her.
The 22nd and 24th president of the United States. That's who he is.
Wait, who was the 23rd?
That's America.
Benjamin Harrison was the 23rd.
Nobody
This
knows who
country's
that
great,
is.
isn't it?
Yeah, and his Grover Cleveland's wife, who the one he raised, yeah, she told
This country was founded on fucking thievery, slavery,
Yeah.
rape, and pillaging.
well, it's founded by the British.
All we did was steal, rape, kill, enslave, and fucking pillage.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
can America be great? How
Yeah.
can this country be good in anybody's eyes? Like, fuck.
It's not.
It was never great.
No. it
This
wasn't.
country was never great.
Great for who? You know, like there's a lot.
The
lot of
closest
people.
that it could possibly could have been is like industrial revolution when a bunch of immigrants were legally coming over and
Yeah.
we had it was considered the melting pot. Like
Yeah, even they were being underpaid.
even
still.
then they were being underpaid. Racism
Killed.
was great. Like no,
Lynched all the
like
time.
there
Yeah.
was never a point in American history where we were quote unquote great.
Yeah.
Like ever. I'm
I mean,
sorry.
a lot of people like to forget that even a lot of people that are considered white today were discriminated against as immigrants, like Italians and
Yeah.
Polish
Yeah.
people and
People forget about
Russians
that.
and even
Irish.
Germans.
Not nearly-
even
Irish.
Germans.
Not-
I mean,
not-
the fucking Germans. They were like, put them in cages.
Not
They're the
nearly as
enemy.
bad as African Americans or
I mean, not.
anyone,
Yeah, you're right.
like-
Not as bad,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, those immigrant communities.
nothing
were
is
racist.
bad as
all,
speaking
regardless,
for
it
them.
doesn't. I get what you're saying. Regardless, if you were an immigrant, you faced hardship.
Yeah, that's where like intersectionality would come in. Like instead of comparing how bad they were treated, you would just combine it together through Venn diagrams.
Which is bullshit because
Yeah.
black people obviously were treated worse than Italians were in the 1920s.
Yeah.
well,
I don't think there's
intersectionality
any
isn't
dispute.
bullshit. I mean, intersectionality is the
Broadly
modern method of categorizing oppression.
No, okay. Let me rephrase that. Intersectionality isn't bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm saying that particular point of the Venn diagram, like. I guess if
uh,
the circles were represented properly, then
Yeah.
there you go.
The whole point is,
I'm
what I-
just
what-
saying,
what
like,
I'm
you
saying,
can't say
yeah.
that immigrants from, white immigrants
Yeah.
that came to the United States that weren't American didn't get worse treatment.
But that's not what I'm saying at all.
I know.
I mean, I guess what I would say
I'm not
to that
disagreeing
is
with
like,
you, I'm just saying.
you're kind of right, because back then, if you had like the
Yeah.
Ku Klux Klan, and they saw a black person, they'd lynch them. If they were,
Yeah.
if they saw an immigrant person, they like, just intimidate them
Yeah,
not
like
to vote.
you're
It's
you
just
know?
both.
Oh,
I mean,
you're
it's just
you're
both
different
at
than
the
us,
same
but you're
time.
still white.
Like
so
it's
that
way
gives you a
worse
pass
treatment,
or
but
something. Like,
both of them are still
that's how
being
the
treated
world
pretty
was.
fucking
Exactly.
badly.
So the way that intersectionality works is that you just recognize both things at the same time without ever comparing them. Because what you do is you just recognize that there's a circle where like immigrants are mistreated.
Yeah.
And then within that
And then
circle,
there's a circle where
black
women are
immigrants
mistreated.
Yeah, and then black immigrants have it the hardest, and then black poor immigrants have the hardest, and then black female poor immigrants have it the hardest, who are Muslim, and who are disabled, and all this other thing. Like that's how intersectionality works. It's an overlapping Venn diagram where we perfectly, smoothly explain oppression without needing to compare. And I just think the issue is that, like, with race now, we have these race reductionists who only think that the only inequality is race. And it's just like, well, you guys are actually being very unhelpful to solve the problem. Because
the racists would agree.
Yeah, you cannot solve racism unless you recognize that there are things other than just racism that are for example, racism is rooted in ignorance. So racism is also an education.
I mean, I would argue
that racism is rooted in classism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I was about to say.
It is completely rooted in classism. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. If you have money, you get treated better.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
that's completely me talking like big picture.
But
I know that rich black people get treated like shit.
I
know that.
What's intersectionality?
Exactly.
That's
but there is some historicity to what you're saying, because even scholars back in like the 18th century would talk about how, like, well, the rich white people import the black slaves so that the poor white people have someone to hate that isn't the rich white people.
And that never would have happened had the white people had predominantly not been the upper class.
Exactly.
I mean, Marx wasn't alive then, so he wasn't around to tell them, like, hey, you're actually being exploited by capitalists and black people aren't doing anything to you.
So you can't solve the problems of race without recognizing that, like, people will use economic situations to put race down. Like, for example, like, it doesn't matter.
No, I didn't mean that to, like, belittle systemic racism.
Well, no, I'm just building
what
you're
saying. It's deeply
for sure.
rooted.
Yeah, exactly. I'm building. Like, I agree completely. It is rooted in classism completely, and like that would mean that classism is like the biggest circle in the Venn diagram. That's all that means. It's the biggest circle in the Venn diagram. So, the vast majority of people in the world are treated like slaves, and regardless of what they look like, what they believe. And if they all just work together and put their differences aside, just to work together to save the house from burning, then that would be the solution. But instead, we're being distracted by only focusing on nitpicking the parts of oppression that are the most emotional.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, a lot of these people who are the most for progressive stuff are actually the least progressive in terms of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because they are stopping people from having conversations that are needed to actually solve the root of the problem. And it's just so unfortunate to see people not realize that the more that they become emotional about an issue, the less they are going to solve it. Like, it's just really upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, but I mean, you just put your, like, think about it. Like, it's easy for us to sit here and say that we can take emotion away from all the problems and all the struggles that black people face in the United States. Realistically, neither of us are black.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about how black people feel.
I know. I'm saying just as an example. Like, I'm saying the thing that you hear about the most right now in oppression in America, the Black Lives Matter movement, all that, everything to
which
do
is basically
with that,
owned by white people now.
Which is insane. But
so
that's a topic for another episode.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, like, it's easy for us to subtract emotion away from that situation.
Yeah.
But when you put yourself and your heritage and your family and people that you know that have directly been impacted by that, I can understand why someone can't take away emotion from that.
And I would
understand why someone would very, very much so hate police and would very much so feel animosity towards police.
See, I just
or
think
their government, or whatever the situation might be.
Yeah, I just think that the issue with that is that there's kind of a misconception with that. The misconception
if I see a family member of mine
Yeah.
being harassed, being bullied, being killed by police officers, I'm going to resent police officers.
Yeah. But
that's the bottom line.
My point is, the misconception with that is that we only think, like, we're just assuming we even know what black people think at all.
No, I mean,
like, that's the problem here. Like,
no, I mean,
so the issue is that, like, when we assume that, like, all the social justice stuff we see on Twitter is the black community, we're making a mistake.
Yeah.
The black community, like you said, is actually truly educated and informed on their own situation. Why wouldn't they be?
I mean, it's their community.
But the thing is, the social justice stuff I'm talking about, that's emotional, That is all created by white people.
Which is just
On Twitter.
insane. Yeah,
we're agreeing completely. I'm just saying the perspective of it is that they want us to think that like these marginalized communities are the ones who love this corporate progressivism.
No.
That's not true. The corporate progressivism, which is highly emotional and exploitative of emotion online,
Do you know how many
comes from white people and rich people to try to confuse the masses from working together.
You know, No
to solve the
Name.
problem.
You know the artist No Name. You know how many times I see her talk about how she doesn't support Black Lives Matter, the corporation, because of the fact that it's ran by white people.
It's completely corrupt. Biden kneeled at the funeral of George Floyd.
Yeah, like
Biden's the reason George Floyd is dead.
Come on, dude.
Biden, you hear me? Biden is the reason George Floyd is dead.
Yes, I mean,
and he was at George Floyd's funeral.
The bottom line is, like,
therefore,
it's not anything that
something is authentic like, there.
I don't know. The bottom line is, it's not. It's just, it's such a complex situation.
Yeah.
And we can sit here and talk about it for hours on end, but the only people that really have any influence over that situation are the people that are in our government. And unfortunately, the time period that we live in, they're all white. Like, they don't care about minorities. They don't. And
I don't even think, honestly,
and that goes back to classism. It's not even just about them not liking minorities. Yeah. It's just that they don't like poor people. And you know who happens to be predominantly poor? Minorities.
Yeah, they just don't like both at the same time and use one. They just use both.
That's what I'm saying. They use the fact that they don't like poor people to as an excuse for them to discriminate against black people, which is not fair at all.
And the way things are now, the race of the politician is pretty much irrelevant because Obama.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, Obama's corrupt. Kamala is corrupt. It doesn't matter. Like, I get what you're saying with that.
Yeah, James Baldwin predicted in 1965 that 40 years from now, the white man would let us have a black president.
Like,
and that's what happened. So that's not real freedom. That's still, as James Baldwin again explained to Dick Cavett. It's like, you don't understand, sir. You are looking at the world through this frame where you're going to give me my freedom.
I used to get looked
my freedom is my own. You do not give me my freedom. You that's the issue. Is like the white people in this country like can't seem to understand that it's not up to them to give anybody anything.
Dude, I used to get looked at and talked to like I was crazy because I didn't like Obama.
Obama was a terrible fascist president.
And people thought I was crazy because I still stand on, I'll die on this hill alone today. Obama hates black people.
Of course he does. He wouldn't have killed so many.
He wouldn't be responsible for killing so many of them and incarcerating so many of them if he didn't.
Exactly. Like, or if he's a part of a structure that hates black people.
Like you said, like the race of the politician doesn't matter. Yeah. Like that you can be a black politician and still do things that don't benefit black people at all. Mm-hmm. Or any like whatever you are. Muslim, fucking anything. It doesn't matter what you are. I'm saying like
diversity
the government does not care.
Yeah, diversity in Congress only matters if it's authentic.
They just use you in...
If it's fake,
they use you in the government like you're a token. That's all it is. They elected Obama so that way the United States could say, hey, we're not racist. We've had a black president.
Exactly. And we could... I actually agree that diversity is useful to Congress. Like, people should elect people who they feel they should represent them. Whatever. That's up to the people to represent, to elect the representative. The issue is that fake diversity and real diversity are two very different things.
Yeah.
And the fake diversity we see everywhere and very little real diversity.
The government right now.
Yeah, the government is fake diversity. They do not actually care about social issues. If they did, they would have solved them.
There's like one, or there's not one. I mean, there's a...
Can I ask a little off-topic question? I'm sorry to interrupt.
What's up?
Yeah.
How did you guys come up on this? Because, out of everybody, our friend group, since when I moved in, when I'm talking about all 8 of us, Cardino, Ashley, Dill, everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How did y'all 3 come up with doing a podcast together? Because that is genius. Out of all the 3 people, I think about it. Y'all 3 are the best people for this.
We just know each other.
Doesn't fit anybody else that I know in this house.
The whole idea, we're about to hit the 45-minute mark, so we can wrap it up with this.
Yeah, for sure.
The whole thing is that Trent, Wallace, and I are going to sit here and talk about this real shit
anyway,
one way or another. So we might as well record it and try to maybe not even capitalize, but just try to get it out there, and maybe get other people's gears turning a little bit, and maybe get them thinking about the topics we're talking about.
At the very least, to put our ideas out there so that they're out there.
People will see it from your perspective.
Yeah.
So any
all three of you, y'all share opinions, but y'all all have your differentials between each other.
We all think the same way, but we can
yeah, we
That's why I was just
bounce
sitting here
off of each other. Like,
yeah, I'm in a cult. We brainwash people to think for themselves.
no, I mean we don't think identically. I more so meant like we politically align pretty like similarly. It's just easy to sit here and talk about because if I brought up a topic to Wallace and I was completely in left field and he felt the polar opposite that I would, he's not going to feel any type of way about telling me that he thinks I'm wrong.
Exactly.
Or he thinks that...
And we'll just respectfully disagree.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We can sit here and have polar opposite. I could be a hard right-wing conservative.
Yeah.
And these two could be the exact same. And this shit will be the exact same.
All three you do that because you guys are all three are willing to hear what somebody else's opinion is. You know what I mean?
I think that's just important is openness to new ideas.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's how you figure out more about yourself.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, it's opposite, you guys still take in other opinions and go, go off of that. You might be picking up facts that you didn't know. You might be learning something new. You might be teaching somebody else. You never know.
Right.
We've changed our minds quite a bit over the years. Like, I used to be like an anti-feminist. I used to be a libertarian in middle school. Like, I mean, we just change our minds as we get new information. To the best of our ability. I mean, we still fail.
Like, the way I used to view things in the past, first of all, I was a kid, so take that with a grain of salt. Second of all, like, when you're... I don't know, like, when you have no perspective other than what you experience in your family and in, like, your local public school, like, you don't really have the best gauge or best idea of how the real world works.
For the record, I've always been right.
Yeah, totally. No,
I know what you mean, though.
We're pretty much at the point where we can wrap this up.
It probably is about time to...
Pretty natural.
Does anyone have anything they would like to say before I press the stop button?
Free Palestine.
Free TK.
Free TK.
It's time to get out of Iraq.
Trans rights are human rights.
Trans rights.